Hello, folks. Welcome back to Never on the Back Foot with the 2025 ICC Champions Trophy on the horizon. India has finished a very victorious and comprehensive, series win versus England. And to discuss all about that series, major takeaways, and also, kind of analyze India's squad, I have Abhinav joining us. He's a Twitter celebrity in himself, but he does a lot of cool things in his day profession. And he's obviously a very big cricket enthusiast and cricket nut. Absolutely, our conversation off record almost would have spilled on to our live show because the man has a lot of stories to share, and hopefully through the course of this discussion we can unlock all of those stories as well. So warm welcome to you, Abhinav. This is your debut on Never the Backfoot YouTube channel, and this is probably the first time we are seeing each other as well. So it's incredible like that. But before we get started with our topic, first things first, how you doing today and how you just feeling being on this podcast?
Great to be back on the podcast and great to be making my YouTube live debut on your podcast because I've done more than my fair share of YouTube lives, but this is the first one I'm doing with you. So it's good to be back here. And coincidentally, last time we did a podcast together was me sitting in Raipur during the 2023 World Cup and trying to and discussing the India Afghanistan game which happened in Delhi and and coincidentally I'm stuck in Raipur right now and we're discussing and we're now trying to preview India for the Champions Trophy. So it's great to
Yeah,
be
I
back
mean,
here.
yeah, I mean, absolutely looking forward to the conversation because there's just been so much chatter, right? Ever since India's squad was announced, and I was kind of hoping it would coincide with after the England series ended, so we could put everything in perspective. So yeah, probably start off with what are your first thoughts on India's Champions Trophy squad? A lot of surprise names that are not a part because of injuries or whatever. A few exclusions, so to say, but more or less, are you convinced with how the squad's shaping up?
Uh, I think there are a few gaping holes in the squad, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you have limitations on you. I mean, you've got fitness issues to certain very key members. Some very unfortunate that they've been left out. I mean, and being replaced by players who probably until I think about 6, 7 months ago don't go a squad. So it is, but it is what it is. I mean, you've got to. It's like you've got to satisfy. You've got to make do with the bed you've got. I mean, if it's a bed of thorns, I mean, you've got to live in it, and you've got to make do with it.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, it is a situation like that. And Akshat, I think, almost pretty much read my mind here. He goes on to ask us about Bumrah's absence. Right? It's obviously going to be a massive, I think, void in India's not just like pace attack, but India's overall team composition as well. Now, going in a tournament without Bumrah is giving Akshat a lot of tension. So, yeah,
Hmm.
Abhinav, where do you find yourself again with, Bumrah's absence and how much it's possibly going to hurt India?
Uh, for this, I will re-quote that eternal line by Mohammad Siraj. I only believe on Jassi Bhai because game change only game. I only believe on Jassi Bhai because on game changer player he is only one Jasprit Bumrah. That is it. And in that uh, I unironically in that one line, Siraj summed up what India feels about Jasprit Bumrah now. He is, I mean, he is your Titan. He's your Titan Atlas. He is everything that that this Indian bowling pace bowling today is just Jasprit Bumrah. If he is there, he automatically makes you 100 times stronger than your opposition because he'll come in at any stage in the game. He'll break a partnership open and he'll be his 10 overs in a 1 day, 4 overs in a T20 or whichever over, and the n number of overs he can bowl in a test match. You can bet on you can bet your entire life saving, your savings and life savings of any person you know or you might not know that he's going to that he's going to bank that straight away. So it's going to be very, very tricky for that Indian bowling attack in the UAE without Jasprit Bumrah, because uh, without him you lack your actual strike pacer. Because look, Shami is still trying to find his way back with after an entire year out due to injury. Harshit Rana is very, very, very raw. Uh, Arshdeep is experienced in T20 cricket. He's not so much. I mean, he's not played a lot of one-day cricket. You had Kuldeep also coming back from a little injury break, and plus I mean, there have been times where he's been taken out for big runs in critical games. Uh, so your bowling attack seems very, very it doesn't seem very, very powerful. So that is where which is why I mean the miss of Jasprit Bumrah is going to hurt massively. It is going to hurt India massively. Please, so I think it's a huge loss. It's a huge loss, and I mean as a Mumbai Indians fan, I would say even if he has to miss the IPL, let him miss the IPL, but he needs to be on that first flight to England. He needs to be on that flight to England, and hopefully have him and surround him with as many workhorse pacers as you want. Let them do the donkey work and use Bumrah in short bursts where he can come, break England open, and then just sip on a pina colada. That is it.
Fair enough, and I hope the Indian think tank is kind of listening to us as well, because a lot of people felt that Bumrah would be ideal to kind of have for this tour as well. But we read a lot of conflicting reports about his back, not being in the best possible shape, be available for this tournament. But yes, the larger objective is obviously the England tour, and fingers crossed that he can kind of be fully fit there. I will, kind of dig deep into India's space attack and how that is shaping up a little later in our conversation. But another interesting inclusion in this Champions Trophy squad is that of Varun Chakravarti. Right now, he has been drafted in. Man is coming off of a great series, the T20 series, where he was amongst the wickets. He was really challenging the England batters, and maybe the think tank felt he would be the right kind of person for the ODI series as well, and eventually, in the Champions Trophy. What did you make of this move? I mean, does it look like a move of desperation or something that, something else?
So one spinner too many. That is what I would say. But look, I mean, it's not a bad call. I mean, because mm, let's not forget that apart from the T20 exploits that Varun has had, he's also been doing very well for Tamil Nadu with the Vijay Hazare Trophy. Let's say his previous Vijay Hazare season actually saw him maybe I think top the wicket takers charts, and he bowled pretty. And in the one ODI that he did get this time around, he looked he retains that bite. He showed that there is something to work with, and uh, the fact that you don't have a Bumrah, you kind of need somebody who can be your impact bowler in that sense. Somebody who you can trust on a little bit to constantly keep you in the game with a wicket or two at any stage in the game. So I think this was India trying to make up for Jasprit Bumrah not being there by covering it up with a spin bowling option, and also it ensures that Kuldeep Yadav is kept on his toes. That the moment India feels that they have that there's a negative matchup team that is approaching. I mean, which is going to be New Zealand, because New Zealand with the entire bunch of left-handed batters that they have, it is going to pose a massive problem for Kuldeep. I think, and that is where somebody like Varun Chakravarti, with his ability to bowl, I mean, because you can't call it leg spin. It's not leg spin technically. It's not. I mean, it's a concoction of it's like a cocktail. His bowling is like a cocktail. So it's going to be interesting to see how in and he's returning to the UAE, and we know the last time. Varun Chakravarti was in the UAE in an ICC tournament uh, for the first time in a format or something. It's there's not been a very good history to it, but and that too included almost as a last minute pressure, almost like a last minute induction. It's not worked out the previous time. So, but a different format, you would hope that things are better. And I think as a bowler, he's evolved. He's changed as he's become a lot better as a bowler. I think the Varun Chakravarti we saw 4 years back in 2021, uh, 3.5 years back, in fact, in 2021 September October, I think, and the Varun Chakravarti we see today, uh, there is it's it's a very clear gap in how far he's come as a bowler. So I think it's India trying to make do with make up for Jasprit Bumrah since so by replacing him with a spinner.
Possible. I mean, that could be one of the measures as well. And I think to all the Indian fans, that reminder of the past World Cup and everything that happened, yeah, did bring in some tears. But definitely, hoping that Varun has a much better showing if he gets opportunities in this, Champions Trophy. But again, just looking at Champions Trophy 2025 for India, considering, India's past performances, case in point, the 2013 one, which we won. Everyone remembers visuals of, Virat dancing, and 2017 where we lost to Pakistan, and after that we haven't had a Champions Trophy for such a long period of time. So how significant is this one going to be for Team India? And I think fans every time want India to win ICC trophy. We just won the T20 World Cup trophy, but that's not enough because ODIs mein hame jeetna hai, and let go of the horrors of 2023, the home World Cup that happened. So yeah, again, your thoughts on how significant this Champions Trophy is going to be for a lot of our players as well.
Because it's an ICC tournament, so there's of course, I mean, there's that degree of prestige that comes in and everything. But I'm amongst those who's actually questioning just why the ruddy hell's tournament is actually happening. Because you win the tournament, you win the tournament after 2017. You said that it's not going to come back, and suddenly ICC wants to try and guzzle up, create as much cash as they want. So they've suddenly brought the tournament back, and lo and behold, you whole big eye of players getting injured before the tournament, which includes captain Australia's Midas man, Pat Cummins, Mitch Stark pulling out, Josh Hazelwood, basically their entire pace attack is pulled out. Andrew Nokia is out with an injury. You've got Lockie Ferguson doubtful for New Zealand. You've got Haris Rauf for Pakistan being doubtful. You've got the young Afghan spinner Alagar Zanfar being ruled out now for due to a fracture or whatever. So I mean, you've got a whole host of players suddenly being injured, which is also a testament to absolutely rubbish schedules that the cricketers are being subjected to go through. I mean, it's not just a life on a suitcase and an airplane anymore. So I mean, and it's just become barely you they have a they're barely able to catch a breath. Suddenly they're off playing a game the very next day somewhere. I mean, so it's a sad testament to how much you're trying to juice out the players. But uh, it is going to be important because the last time India played this tournament, they made it to the final, and we knew what happened in the final over there. And I don't think anyone wants to revisit what happened in 2017. So it is, and it's a the tricky group that India have. Pakistan, New Zealand, both being put in the same group. For India, it's never. And the last time those two teams were in the same group with India in a tournament in the UAE again, uh, it didn't have a very happy ending as well at that time. But formats are different, and the personnel are different, and the style of gameplay has also is also very very different. So you would hope that things are there's going to be something completely different in on the cards this time around. But uh, I think this tournament is important because you want to you this tournament should be the point from where you transition to the next gen of players, because uh, irrespective of what happens, Rohit, I'm amongst those who's firmly on this side that Rohit has to be retired after this. You either give him an honorable exit, or you tell him straight up, boss, you're done. We're not taking you in in the other two formats. It's over. Retire. I think that, and even for Virat, I think with the way his form has wavered all over the place in irrespective of format for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, it's come to the point where you're now questioning whether he merits a place in the Indian team, which until about 6 7 years ago it was blasphemous to even suggest that. So I think irrespective of what happens, India, the Champions Trophy has to mark the point. Irrespective of your results, the Champions Trophy will have to be the point from where India makes that hard transition in all formats, away from the Virat and the Rohit phase of Indian cricket towards having other players stepping up in their stead. I mean, it's my view. A lot of the fan base of either players will certainly not be happy, and I've had my fights with them over the last few months over this. So I don't want to. So yeah, I'm giving them more fodder to attack me for this. But yeah, bring it on. But the Champions Trophy has to mark the points from where India transitions. That is my view. That is how I'm looking at this Champions Trophy this time around.
No, absolutely fair points, and you are entitled to your opinions because India will have to take some hard calls, post this tournament and really look into the kind of team they want to build for future
Hmm.
ICC events as well. But again, just looking at the format, right? ODIs. I mean, it's this unfortunate middle child, as a lot of people tend to call it, that's being ignored, and not a lot of teams have also played ODIs for a significant chunk now. And now, before the Champions
Yes.
Trophy, we see a lot of like tri series and all of these bilaterals happening, right? Like, again, what is your assessment of ODI cricket, the way it is headed? And do you think this Champions Trophy is again just a desperate attempt to, infuse some life into what a lot of people are calling a dead format, unfortunately?
Uh, I mean, the way you could have revived uh, genuine interest and also legitimacy in the format, in the one day format, is if you had triangular series more often, if you had triangular series and everything, those sort of things happening uh, a lot more. I mean, because that is the one way that you give legitimacy to the format. That ODI championship, the ICC ODI championship, for that one cycle, it at least gave some context to a lot of the ODI series. At least you had points on offer. You had something tangible waiting for you, like qualifications for the next World Cup. Uh, so you had a lot of those things, and it gave a lot of the teams specifically towards the lower half of the barrel. I mean, teams like Ireland, Netherlands, and these sort of lower ranked test slash associate nations the chance to mix it up with the bigger teams and it gave them chance. It gave the format a lot more of a legitimacy. It gave the format legitimacy, and I mean, I really don't know why it's exactly what you said. It's that son, that forgotten son of the family who's no longer being cared for. So I think. I would have wanted. I mean, so I think the Champions Trophy is one. It is ICC wanting to create cash flow for itself and juice the cow that is the Indian public, or Indian television public. That is one, and two. It is trying to give some sort of a reboot to the ODI format, because it's clearly. I mean, I don't know whether it's on a ventilator, or what the position of the patient is in as far as one day cricket is concerned.
Yeah, again, fair points there. And I think this tournament will again give us an indication of where things are headed for ODIs. And we have a lot of support coming in for you, Abhinav, in our chat. Milind goes on to say, great to see Abhinav Bhai.
Another
And
another colleague, a good friend, colleague of mine. So yeah, shout out. Good to see you on the comments, Milind. Thanks.
yeah, and we also have Abhishek going on to say, Abhinav Bhai on
Thank you.
fire and all of
Thank
that.
you. Thank you.
And
Thank you so
Ajinkya
much.
also goes on to ask us that do you feel that this tournament and its result will have a bearing on the preparations for the 2027 World Cup? You did allude to
It
this
should.
a little
I
earlier in
I
our
I
podcast.
would agree. It has to take this tournament has to be this, as I said in one of, I think a few minutes back, that this tournament has to mark the point where India transitions for the 2027 World Cup. Irrespective of what happens, Rohit will have to be told either irrespective if India wins, I think he will retire on his own cement, try and project himself as a leader who's changed Indian cricket and shit. I mean, as per what his PR can PR wants to do. But irrespective of results, if India crashes out or makes it to semis or the finals, whatever, uh, Rohit has to be told to quit. Virat, I think, last legs. I think right now, I think the way his form has wavered, I think again uh, it's you really don't know whether 20 uh, at one point in time till about 4 5 years ago you would 2027 it's done deal. Virat will be able to play. Right now I really don't know whether he is good enough to play the format any longer. And plus then there is a long waiting list of players st- uh, uh, who are waiting outside the on the outside the door. I mean, you've got a Yashasvi Jaiswal who's wanting to claim his position at the top of the order. You've got a Sai Sudarshan who's waiting to get a spot, especially after having made a stunning impression in the three ODIs he got in South Africa. You've got Yudhuturaj Gaikwad wanting to reclaim his place in the Indian team through some format. You've got people who love Sanju Samson who want to see him come back to the ODI format, especially after having scored 100 the last time around he played. But I mean, let's face it, it wasn't a full strength of South African bowling attack that he faced, and it wasn't. He was a part of a second string Indian team that was playing the format. So I think there are a lot of those, and then seeing which pacers are ready to take up the load alongside Bumrah. Hopefully, if Bumrah is able to maintain his fitness for that in that period with Bumrah, Arshdeep, and there's so many pacers in the pipeline. There are a lot of players who want to claim a spot. There's a Nitish Reddy who probably could become the next who could either supplant Hardik Pandya or who could replace or play alongside Hardik in that side. There's a lot of players waiting up on the doorway after these players retire. So the 2027 World Cup preparation, I think, needs to happen from this tournament onward. This has to be the last for Rohit, Virat, for Jadeja as well. I mean, I've never been a fan of Jadeja in the format irrespective. I mean, his bowling is great, but I literally I don't rate his batting and his game awareness at all. But yeah, I mean, it is. I think, like Ajinkya said, it has to. This is the tournament from where you start planning for 2027 in South.
Yeah, and time will tell, how India kind of takes these decisions. And thank you so much for your question, Ajinkya, and to all of our viewers as well. Don't forget to check out Abhinav on his Twitter. Don't forget to subscribe to Never in the Back Foot. And yeah, again, just carrying on our discussion. I think off record we were talking about, the tournament happening in Pakistan, but India, playing all of their matches in Dubai as well. So, Abhinav, somewhere do you think that this is probably going to impact India's approach and squad selection? I mean, it has to a great extent, but then, do you think it's probably going to be an entirely different way of seeing things, perhaps?
I mean, at this point in time, Dubai, how the conditions will play, I don't know. I mean, how? I mean, at this time, I think because it's February, I think there will be some dew. I mean, you've got to, and the way ODI cricket has is now heading towards, it's when the toss, chase, win. Unfortunately, that is how one day cricket is now starting to progress towards. I mean, you win the toss, unless and until uh, you posted a massive score first up, batting first up. So uh, I think it's going to affect how India plays. Dubai, it's bigger ground. It's it's a massive ground with massive square boundaries, and relatively long straight boundaries as well. So it's going to impact how your the six hitting of the batsman. I mean, how frequently they'll take the aerial route, how quickly, how much, how they judge the angles of the field, how do they play the angles of the ground. I mean, it's going to determine a lot of how India especially approaches with the bowling. I mean, uh, what lengths and what is the line that what that an Arshdeep and Shami can pick, especially if the ball is towards the evening. It uh, is doing a little bit, just a little bit. How what lengths do Arshdeep and Shami pick to bowl? If what are the lengths that Kuldeep or Varun Chakravarti with Jadeja and Akshar in that side? What sort of lengths and what how will they vary their bowling speeds and uh, facing up against some very opposition? I mean, Pakistan in the recent month or so, they've suddenly discovered a second life, second win in one day cricket under Rizzu Simons, and uh, then New Zealand is New Zealand. I mean, Tom Latham can fail as many times as he wants, and suddenly he sees India in he suddenly spots a blue Indian jersey and suddenly rediscovers just who the hell he is, and suddenly and will score 100. Uh, then there's Bangladesh. I mean, at this point, I really don't know what the Bangladesh team is. I mean, so yeah, I mean, but it's those two games that will judge that will judge how quickly whether India makes it to the semis or not. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, these are much bigger grounds. Uh, Under the lights, there will be a little bit. There will be some dew. It's February, so it's the temperatures in the nighttime temperatures will be a little low. So I think it will affect how India uh, goes about their entire, especially the bowling. How do they go about with their bowling, especially if they bowl second? But it's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how India navigates ODI cricket in Dubai, especially after I think the last time they played there was the 2018 Asia Cup. That was it. When they, yeah, so it's been 7 years since India played one day cricket in the UAE, and most through that tournament, India, but they played that tournament in September when the peak of the when the dew season is starting to kick in. So India just kept bowling first, chasing, winning. Uh, Except for that one game, I think against Hong Kong, where they could have lost the game. But yeah, I mean, but otherwise mm, uh, so it's going to be interesting to see how India goes about handling the bowling side of things in Dubai, especially with Bumrah now out of the picture. So how does a Bumrah less Indian bowling attack now pick itself up and plot their way over towards a knockout round berth? That will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean, you're putting a positive spin by telling it will be interesting to see, but then scary signs, honestly, without Bumrah. And I think we did talk about it earlier as well. But let's probably just talk about India's ODI form, right? I mean, just having a look at the number of ODIs India has played since that ODI World Cup. There's obviously the Sri Lanka series. There was like a very forgotten South Africa series in between.
Yeah.
India's
Just
emerged, yeah.
so nine ODIs they've played. I'm sorry, I've cut you off. India's played nine ODIs. They've lost three of those. I mean, twice in Sri Lanka, once in South Africa. They've had the try. and they've won 5 games. Yep. So my maths is absolutely right, and three of those victories have come just now. I mean, so literally 9 1 days in a year and a half. It's literally there's not much you can go. You can judge it on because in two, especially in one of the series, India played a completely second string 11 second string team over there. So in South Africa, so literally you can't you really can't judge how India is progressing in the format except for seeing what they've tried to do in the games against England. And I mean, bowling wise, I think there are concerns. I mean, I think the one good thing is that Jadeja suddenly discovered his old ODI bowling boots once again, and it's good that he's done that because he in a way was actually India's strike bowler. He literally was the strike bowler for India, literally striking every second over he was getting a wicket, which is good. Which is good because Shami looked undercooked and decided it. I mean, visibly still looked a little unfit coming back from injury. Harshit Rana is being used in a role he clearly does not have the. I don't think has the skill sets uh, at this point in time in his career. Uh, Hardik though delivered very good spells, even if he was getting too many wickets, at least he was being reliable. And Hardik is the player on whom India's entire balance once again depends. Uh, if Hardik is able to, because Hardik is going to function as your third pacer over there, and that is where and that skill and his ability to hit that to either bowl is up front with the new ball or hit towards the middle of the innings and bowl into the pitch, bowl a lot of those cutters and the variations that he has. Like, it is critical. And then uh, how much Akshar, how much of Akshar, impact that Akshar can have with the ball. I mean, because he's a much different, despite being very very similar. I mean, having roughly the same skill sets as such. I mean, same type of players, Jadeja and Akshar. Akshar as a bowler is, I think, still maybe just a step behind Jadeja because and very very different ways of attacking of bowling in one day cricket. I mean, Jadeja now is able to get lot more spin on the ball, and he is able to use while Akshar is still. I mean, he tries to keep it very very much in the line of the stumps and tries not to spin the ball a lot and as a as a run container, I think Jadeja is a better run container. A better he's the better defensive bowler. That is a credit I'm always willing to give to Jadeja. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how India fares because I think their batting has found groove. I mean, Gill looks. I mean, when he is on form, he is smoother than the smoothest butter chicken gravy you'll in any North Indian, in any top class North Indian restaurant anywhere. Uh, so, Shreyas Iyer at this form is India's linchpin in that middle order. If Iyer fires, India is set for a big score because you don't have a better player of spin bowling apart from there's no one who plays spin bowling as well as Iyer does. He destroys reputations of opposition spinners irrespective of what they're, irrespective of whether you're an Adam Zampa, you're a Mitchell Santner, or you're XYZ. If he's on form, he will take you down from any be it standing in his crease or stepping down the crease. He'll take you apart, and he is able to do that very very effectively. Aksar as a bat as Aksar is your second best batter against him and that and him at number five it's completely you've suddenly seen what he can do as a when you give him a little bit more time with the as a batsman you can see what he can do. I mean, as a batting unit India is coming together, but I mean it'll be tested with uh, by uh, by teams like New Zealand, especially, who always seemingly have their plans against India mm, very well set, irrespective of formats. Uh, and then you have and how the bowling fares up. So it's going to be very interesting because mm, apart from Jadeja, you did not see too many good signs for Indian bowling as such, and that is a concern. But it will be interesting to see. I mean, I'm hopeful that the bowling will pull together. But yeah, I mean, if there is a weak spot for India, it is the bowling attack right now.
Fair enough. And for folks joining us now, we were just talking about how India's recent ODI form has been a little up and down with not a lot of matches under their belt. And Abhinav pretty much even summed up my next question that is going to be about the biggest takeaways from this England series. But Abhinav, again, let's talk a little bit about Rohit Sharma. I mean, you're someone who advocates that probably this should be his last tournament in this format for India because he's past his prime, but somewhere he kind of silenced a lot of his critics with that very convincing century, right? In the second ODI. I mean, what did you make of that knock? A lot of his fans were like, "Ah, we see the selfless knock, and Rohit Sharma doing Rohit Sharma things." But then it's high risk, high reward, right? The way he's going right now, and yeah, like what's the end point for this?
I mean, a lot of people are paying compliments to Rohit Sharma, and fair point, fair game. He was outstanding in that second one day, but let's be clear, that is one in, I think, 10 or 11, or I don't know how many. I mean, because there's been a clear, it is very, very visible with age, and it is scientific. It is a scientifically visible, proven fact with human body that the more you age, especially if you're a sports person, your reflexes tend to slow down. And for a player like Rohit Sharma, who is very much dependent on the hand and eye moving together in synchronization, it is coming apart rapidly for him. I mean, be it all, irrespective of format. I mean, I am not. I've been a massive critic of this entire PR, selfless PR stick that is when and everyone is up to. I've never been a huge fan of it. I've fought against it. I've been a vocal critic of it. But look, I mean, I wouldn't say he's back in form. I still won't say. I mean, because you could see the very next game. I mean, he was done within minutes. He was cut up. He was cut left, right, center by Mark Wood within minutes in that of the third one day starting off. So I mean, I wouldn't say he's back in form, but it's going to be very, very tricky. I mean, but look, if Rohit Sharma can wind the clock back a little, I mean, just for one, I mean, in this format, you a quick fire 30, 40 of 20, 25 balls, that is also valuable enough, because thankfully, India seemingly have the batters who can take it forward from that 30, 40, that quick fire 30, 40 that Rohit can give uh, at the top of the order if he gets going. And if he gets going, it is, I mean, good night bowlers. I mean, I think it's Aapke Father, as that Anubhav, I think it's Anubhav Bassi's uh, trademark line, Aapke Father Sahab aa gaye. Which is what happens when if Rohit goes into that mode. It's uh, आपके father साहब आ गए. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I'm looking at those three group stage games with a lot of interest. How Rohit approaches, because it is like you said, it's a high risk, high reward game that he's trying to play, because he to now cover up for his slowing reflexes and everything. He's now trying to go for anything and everything. I mean, he's going every ball that he's spotting in his area. I mean, and sometimes and the moments it comes off, I mean, uh, ch- uh, चले तो I mean, चल गया तो ठीक है. If it doesn't work, I mean, Yeah, I mean, okay, but I mean, I wouldn't say he's back in form, but if Rohit can summon back a little bit of his 2023 uh, World Cup mode and get a few runs, I mean, I think it could do India a lot of good starting off. I mean, it would do India a lot of good starting off. I mean, that is what my hope is.
Yeah, I think all ardent Indian fans will be hoping, for Rohit Sharma to regain some of that form and try to be more consistent with it. And let's look at his partner, right, Shubman Gill, at the other end. He seems to be the ideal opener that India wants to bank upon because he's also your vice captain. I mean, what have you made of his form and even Yashasvi, right, just being there as that backup opener as well? So it's kind of keeping Shubman on his toes, right? Man has to keep performing to retain his spot, and you have someone like Yashasvi Jaiswal as well, who's anytime ready to encroach that spot.
As we speak, Yashasvi has now been replaced in the squad by Varun, which is always a good call. I mean, I was for what essentially could be a glorified three match tournament. It literally does in a 15-man squad. It literally doesn't make sense for you to pick a specialist backup opener. I mean, there was never a need, and that first one day, I could not for my life understand why they were trying post with Yashasvi Jaiswal in the 11. Not that I feel that he's a bad player, but at this time, I don't think the spot is open for him. It was, I mean, I literally I was questioning that, and uh, so it's good, and Gill had to anyway start. I mean, there was never a question that he should not have, even if he wasn't made the vice captain. There was never a question that he shouldn't have been that he shouldn't have been Rohit's partner at the other end, because uh, as an opening batter, you literally, I mean, mm, he just, I mean, it's very very looks aesthetically pleasing. It's like I mentioned the compliment that I paid for him. Uh, when he is in flow, he is smoother than the smoothest butter chicken gravy that you will find anywhere in any Michelin starred North Indian restaurant. I mean, he literally it is very very smooth the way he plays. I mean, uh, very very he looks very very solid with the white ball, cutting the ball, pulling, driving, driving the ball, stepping down the track against spinners. Again, which is an art that very very sadly a lot of players don't seem to rely on too much. But I mean, it's good to see. It was good to see him get good runs, get a lot of runs. In fact, I mean, in all three one days, he scored good big runs over there, and right now, because especially with Rohit form and Virat's form in such a pendulum, swinging so much like a pendulum. Gill Shreyas are the two players on whom you're batting now, essentially. Those are the two pillars on which your Indian batting order now rests very, very much. So it was anyway, it was anyways foolish for the selectors to try and pick Jaiswal for the I mean, it was. I mean, okay. I mean, granted, they wanted to see what sort of an option that he can provide as a left-hander. But I think the fact that Akshar made it easy for them to drop Jaiswal. Akshar literally made it very very easy for them to completely dump Jaiswal out of the picture, because coming up at number 5 and being able to hit spinners out like that, I mean, it just gave the selectors it gave the selectors no choice but to revisit their entire calculation about trying to force fit Jaiswal into the squad and into the 11. So, I mean, Jaiswal's time will come. It will come after the Champions Trophy, but it wasn't now. I think Gill being in the runs, it is gives confidence for the Indian batting lineup, especially at this stage.
Definitely, I think Jaiswal's time will come. He just has to be patient about it, and hopefully, the Indian think tank will, still keep him in the scheme of things. But let's also talk about Virat Kohli for a bit here, because man missed the first ODI. Then saw him kind of gain form through the series. In the second ODI, kind of got a start, threw it away. In the third ODI as well, after he scored his 50, we saw him open up a little bit, but then again, undone by an Adil Rashid delivery there. I mean, how's Virat Kohli looking like for you? Because ODIs are his format. Everyone knows, he is here to dominate. But then, is it giving you like proper impressions of him being, like mentally prepared for an event like the Champions Trophy?
He seems mentally prepared, but I don't know whether he's technically prepared or not, because issues are still not resolved. I think he's. I mean, I think because it's the format that he's actively trying to reach for the ball outside the off stump, uh, and that is a double-edged sword, especially in one-day cricket. Uh, so it's and then his long-standing issue, especially over the last 4 or 5 years, of trying to negotiate spin. I mean, he's constantly. I mean, Adil Rashid had him on his speed dial in both the games. He had him on speed dial. Very very. I mean, he would come and Rashid, being the bowler that he is, managed to find a way past Virat, and which is the case with a lot of spinners who. In white ball cricket over the last few years, who've been able to do that to Virat. I mean, his gameplay against spin, literally, it is a concern. Unfortunately, as much as I love Virat to bits, but his gameplay against spin is a decided point of is a massive point of concern right now. And then, I mean, of course, his because he's because his feet are not. I mean, in a more technical sense, because his feet are not really moving in line with the ball. He's trying to compensate it by reaching out with his hands. And when you do that, especially in one-day cricket, it is a risk and reward situation, because very very often a lot of captains often remove the slip cordon, so you can have times where it just flies through the cordon and you're able to get a streaky boundary, or you nick it either back onto your stump or it onto the keeper's hand, or if there's a waiting slip cordon for you, which a lot of captains I think will now try and do that. Keep a slip, they'll keep at least one slip ready at all times for Virat. I mean, because if Virat is able to kind of just get himself back into the groove once again, if his feet are moving properly in line with the ball, I think then possibilities are endless, because then we all know what just how much this the mastery that Virat has in this of the format. I mean, yes, like with Rohit, I think I'm very very certain of the fact that this is the point where you have to be very very clear about what you want to do with Virat, especially with an eye in towards 2027 in this format. Uh, so it's going to be interesting to see how Virat now goes about handling this the Champions Trophy, because uh, as controversial as it sounds, I think he's fighting for a place in the team for the next 4 years, for the next 2 years, for the next edition of the World Cup. He's now fighting for a place in the team.
Yeah, and I think this is a statement we don't hear very often, right? Virat Kohli fighting for a place in the team, because it's like it's a given, right, that he would walk into any Indian playing 11. But that's how things have eventually come to. But again, just looking at India's batting now, let's talk about Shreyas Iyer. I mean, you have raved about how he has been performing really well at that number 4 spot, which is his designated spot. But an interesting observation through the series was how the number 5 spot, right? I mean, we thought it was for KL Rahul, but then we had Akshar Patel come in one of those ODIs, try to salvage things for India. Again, takes me back to a broadcast conversation that Gambhir had. He said, I don't know if it was just applicable for India's T20 strategy, but he said, the opener slot is secured, but uske baad, we will try to send in batters based on the match situation and all of that. So I don't know if it's a little bit of his like T20 philosophy spilling over to like the ODI side of things, or was that just like an anomaly when he, kind of sent Akshar Patel ahead of KL Rahul? But again, Abhinav, how do you think this 4-5-6 is shaping up for India? And I mean, how would you like to see it?
Find this 4-5-6. I definitely don't, because I uh, at this time I rate Akshar's batting against spin a little better than KL Rahul, because Rahul is uh, I don't want to sound very harsh about, but he looks very tentative against spin at times, very tentative, and unfortunately I think his big match bottle, it doesn't exist. I don't think he really is a very good big match player. I mean, he's as much as he gets. I mean, he shouldn't be getting a lot of flack for his 2023 final knock. I think there is a case to be made that it should be given, that he deserves the flack for it as well. But I don't mind this 4-5-6. It was, I mean, I go back to that. I mean, the broadcast conversation that you talked about, the comment that Shreyas made on the post-match broadcast, that he was supposed to sit out on the first one day. It literally, I mean, it was on. It me almost want to physically go and want to go physically berate Gambhir and Rohit for even trying to conceive that, because I mean, like it or I mean, how can you do that to most quintessential, your most suited one uh, player of this format. I mean, the best batter you have for this format. Shreyas is your archetypical number four ODI middle order batsman. In that number four role, you literally can you can count on your fingers just who's going to be better than him in that role. And uh, his ability to dominate his lack of weakness against spin. I mean, against any kind of spin. I mean, we've seen Surya in T20 cricket struggle against the left arm spinners, or Virat for the last few years struggle against leg spinners as well as left arm spinners. Rohit having his struggles with leg spinners as well, and bunch of mystery spinners. With Shreyas, you literally cannot pinpoint any mistake with any kind of weakness that he has with the spinner. I mean, the only way Shreyas can defeat himself against a spinner in the one day format is if he himself is committing a mistake. Otherwise, literally his ability to either stand his ground and be able to hit from the crease, or be able to step down the track and hit the bowler out of the over his head. It's a deadly cocktail, and he looked relatively in control of handling the short pitch stuff as well this time around. And England did have some decent, did have Wood and Archer to try and target him with that, but he was able to negotiate that pace pretty well, and his ability to constantly keep the scoreboard moving either by rotating strikes or by hitting a boundary. Uh, it literally makes him your archetypical number four. Uh, Akhtar's batting ability has improved over the last 2-3 years. I mean, as a batsman alone, uh, I would pick Afsar purely at this time. I would pick him as a batting all rounder in in the one day and T20 setup, because his ability to hit spinners is, I think, second to Shreyas at this time in this 11. He's your second best player of spin. The way he took Adil Rashid out of the equation in that first one day, in that partnership that he had with Shubman, and with Shubman, it was literally, it was like, wow. I mean, and we saw what he was able to do in that T20 World Cup final as well, where he ensured that neither Shamsi nor Keshav Maharaj nor Aiden Markram could have the opportunity to complete their spell out. I mean, it was as much as people rave about that 78 that Virat got it. Uh, had it not been for that 47 of 31, I think that knock could very well have been the knock that would have lost us that final. But so Shreya and with putting Aksar at 5, you are able to use that age old right left matchup, and you limit KL Rahul's ability to think too much, and not just overthink. The less time you give Rahul to try and think and overthink the situation, the better it is for him, because you give him that very very clear that boss, the slog overs are coming. You have literally no other option than trying to go for the runs, and we know that he can hit pace. He's a very 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 good pace hitter in this format. And I mean, I've often joked this. I mean, it's a comment that a lot of people in the game, a lot of people in the game have made about him. If you're a Rahul, if you're from Karnataka, and if you're playing one day cricket for India, you're you're supposed to be you're supposed to be a Swiss knife where you can be used to plug in whatever sort of a hole that is there. I mean, if you need an opener, you have that. If you need a middle order collapse arrestor, you need a circuit breaker, you have that. You need a end overs pace hitter, you have that. If you need a wicket keeper, you have that. And if you need somebody to be laying that, then in this case you also have that. If you need a scapegoat, you also have that. So uh, which is a tad unfortunate, but I mean, uh, you limit KL Rahul's time to overthink and overcomplicate his the process. I mean, it is critical that you don't let Rahul dwell on the game, on his batting too much. Just let him, try and keep him free of trying to overthink uh, the situation. Just let him try and go and hit, especially if he's coming out in the 37th, 38th, or the 40th overs. Let him just go out there and start hitting from ball one, and just I mean, further pick the pace up of the innings a notch. And then yes, I mean, your 4, 5, 6 have to be a very very flexible middle order, which is useful to tackle whichever kind of a matchup you want to kill quickly. So I think in that sense, I don't mind this the Iyer, Akshar, and Rahul 4, 5.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, that sort of flexibility and rotation is probably something, India will have to evolve with and are kind of, executing to perfection as well. Let's also, probably discuss a little bit about India's pace bowling, which clearly seems to be, hinging on Harshad Rana at the moment, him getting selected ahead of Siraj. I mean, just talk to us about his progression, right? Breakthrough IPL season, has had some great, domestic seasons as well. But again, just looking at it from an India POV, like going ahead, does it give you a lot of confidence that India's space attack is, going to be spearheaded by Harshad Rana, and others are just going to be like second fiddle, maybe?
Uh, Look, for a lot of people, for a majority of the population, Ashrit Rana is here on a Gautam Gambhir Sifarishi count. A lot of people would think, a lot of people might have a justification to think that the fact that he was not given an ODI debut in India debut until the IPL retentions had happened and everything, that entire controversy. It is, I mean, Gambhir will have to hold his hand up, and it is obvious that he tried to do his old team a favor. But his selection, even in that Australia Test tour, was very very out of the blue, very very out of the, and it showed. I mean, the first impression didn't was, I mean, at least in Perth, he looked cut out for this role, but it all unraveled. Of course, we saw it in the pink ball test, and well, even in one day cricket, I think, and him being selected over Siraj. But let's face it, Siraj was juiced out completely. His rhythm had deserted him, and he desperately needed a bit of a break. Needed a bit on his backside to just relight his spark. So I don't mind Harshit being picked over Siraj. I mean, contrary to a lot of people who are feeling that if Siraj has been hard done by, I think it's not bad that Harshit has been picked. But I have an issue with the way Harshit is being used because I don't think uh, the new ball is the role that he is really suited for. I don't think he should be given the new ball. His and the only way you can play a Harshit Rana in your team is if you're wanting to play with three specialist pacers, three absolute out and out specialist pacers. There, then you can have Harshit playing the role that I think at this stage in his career, till the time he develops his new ball skill set, is more suited to him. Bowl in the middle phase, middle overs phase. Be your designated middle overs hit, deck hitting enforcer. Use the hard line to the pitch. Use the pace and constantly keep the batsman on tenterhooks in that phase. So that is, I think, the role that Harshit at this present stage in his career is suited to play in the format. Uh, and I wasn't very happy with the way Gambhir was trying to use Harshit as with the new ball. I would have rather wanted to see Hardik being given the new ball if it was coming to that. I wouldn't have minded seeing Hardik being given the new ball and Harshit being used more as a middle overs, more to bowl towards post in the post 10 overs phase. But I mean, uh, you make the choices, as I said at the start. You make the choices. You have to live with the choices you make. So India, the team management is carrying Harshit, and if they want to play him, then I think they should try and make the best possible use of him in the in the phase that he is best suited to bowl. Otherwise, I don't think he really figures into your 11.
Yeah, and hopefully, it's not a situation where he's overused or not used in the right situations and is exposed, which, kind of further unravels into a lot of other complicated things. And just briefly looking at the spin bowling stocks as well, right, that India has at the moment. You did talk about Jadeja earlier in our conversation, but we also have the likes of Akshar Patel, Kuldeep Yadav, and Washington Sundar. So, how is this spin department shaping up for you? And again, giving you confidence ahead of the Champions Trophy?
Look, as I said, this is an Indian bowling attack having one spinner too many. I think they could have potentially dropped Washington Sundar. I wouldn't have minded them going with Kuldeep, Varun, Akshar, and Jadeja. I wouldn't have minded them going with that. But Washington, because I think again Gambhir clearly clearly likes Washington Sundar as a player. I think he really sees some value in him, especially as a bowler. I don't think as a batsman he's really developed. I think it's batting unless he tries to develop uh, his power hitting game. I don't think his uh, in this format his batting is going to work. Uh, so, uh, but he is disciplined as a bowler. He can control. I mean, in a decent in a decent team, he can control. He's the sort of a guy you can use as either to bowl with the new ball, just in case throwing it out over there. You want to try and box your outfox your opposition, just throw the new ball over to Washington so that he can do that. Or you can use him in the middle overs, try to feed the runs out, try and dry out the flow of runs because I think he's just about decent as a defensive off-spin option in the format. I think Kuldeep is your strike spinner, and he will have to, especially with Bumrah now being absent. I think as one of the senior most bowlers in the squad, I think he will have to and he's your designated ODI, your prime ODI wrist spinner. So I think he will have to step up into that role. He's coming back from I think an injury, so uh, but it'll him being in rhythm, I think it will give in the Indian team a lot of confidence, and I think whatever they can, I mean, 7, 8 overs, 10 overs that Akshar can give them with the ball. I mean, on a good day, he'll give you 5, 6 overs. On most other days, he can give you a 10 full 10 spell. So and as a left arm spinner, I think he's different. He's a little different than Jadeja because Jadeja, mm, uh, with a slightly lower point of release, gives is able to and he turns the ball a little more. Akshar with a slightly taller height, longer fingers, can get the ball to can impart greater revs on the ball, but keeps it more within the line of the stump and not spin it too much. He just tries to keep it very very simple and just, as I said, just dart the ball in. Very very different to Jadeja though. I mean, I have seen Akshar being hit as well at times. I mean, his first over very often. I mean, I think couple of occasions in this series, his first overs have been taken for runs, but he's able to. But I think because the quality of the bowler that he is, he's able to quickly pull it back, and he's able to settle into and eventually give you a four and a half, five and over spell, and even get you a wicket or two. And I think that is the utility that the role that India is looking at for Akshar, because I think they value Akshar's skill with the bat a lot more than they do Jadeja, because we've seen Jadeja with the bat is, I mean, if you're giving Jadeja the bat, I mean, the game is already. I mean, I'm very much in that camp that I've literally never liked Jadeja in the format. I hold several grudges against him. 2009 Hyderabad, 2017 Champions Trophy, uh, being amongst the prime grudges that I have with Jadeja, the one-day batsman, and also the 2026 final, because I also feel that Jadeja as a batsman was very, very fineless in that entire final. But yeah, I mean, that was most of the team in that final. But irrespective, but I think it's a pretty decent spin bowling attack. But yeah, I mean, one spinner too many. I would have wanted them to probably take another pacer. Uh, Maybe a Siraj could have done wonders. Could have been the one, or give it could have called up anyone else. But I think it's one spinner too many in conditions. I'm not sure whether, because we've not seen Dubai hosting one day cricket for a fair amount of time. I mean, so it's going to be very interesting on how the spinners are able to hold up in Dubai, especially if they're asked to bowl seconds with all the due that will be there. But it's a decent spin bowling attack. It's not one where you can complain, but yeah, the only point of complaint, like I said, one spinner too many.
And before we move on to what your ideal playing 11 for India and the X factor looks like, Abhinav, what do you think are the biggest challenges and concerns for India, heading into the tournament? I think briefly through the conversation we've spoken about the form of certain players, things that did not work out well. But if you just had to summarize that for all the audience, joining us now.
Challenges and concerns. I mean, look, one the form of your two senior most players, Virat and Rohit, how their form as batters plays in through the course of the tournament. Because I mean, let's face it, they've had a very very rocky past few months, especially for Rohit and Virat. It spans last few years. That they've not been in a great run of form. So that I think their form will dictate a lot about how India's mm, progress to the match happens, and then uh, how fit Mohammad Shami is. That whether he's been rushed in a little too soon, because with Jadeja being injured, with Bumrah sorry being injured, is the need I mean, how have they put Shami back into the cauldron after being out for more than a year, and uh, have they pushed him in at a time when his body probably is looking as if not really ready? So how Mohammad Shami is able to uh, perform over the three games, that will be something uh, very very. That'll be interesting to see how he managed to do that, and if he's not performed, is India ready to trust Harshit Rana with the new ball again? That is something that I have doubts on. And just who India's strike spinner really is going to be. Whether Gambhir wants to bring Varun into the equation once again and have him take the shot, or Kuldeep as the incumbent uh, gets the go. Those are, I think, the challenges and concerns that I have. I think it's Virat and Rohit's form. I think then Shami's fitness, and just who India's strike winner is, and then the susceptibility, whether India in pressure condition, the pressure situation of a knockout, whether whether they are mentally able to stand up. That that I think India, I mean, the pre-stated concern, the absence of uh, Jassi Bhai. So those are, I think, the challenges and concerns that I figure out would be that are there for India.
Yeah, I mean, well articulated that, it gives a lot of, context and perspective as well of where India is headed. So probably, we can keep our expectations, within measure. But I think now comes the billion-dollar question, Abhinav. I mean, what does India's ideal playing 11 look like? I mean, the squad is announced, everything is there for the taking. So yeah, what does your playing 11 look like? If you just had to, think of one now and pencil it in.
Okay, so basically, it's just the same team that India played in the second one day, with the one obvious change that Arshdeep replaces Harshit Rana in the side. So, in just to expand on it, it's Rohit and Gill at the top of the order. Virat bats at three. Shreyas Iyer bats at four. That top four remains unchanged. Your five, six, and seven, depending on the situation, can change with KL, Akshar, and Hardik, depending on the sort of matchup that you have. Those three alternating between five, six, seven. Jadeja at eight. Kuldeep, I think Kuldeep replacing Varun for me at nine. Kuldeep, Kuldeep at nine, and then Arshdeep and Shan 10, 11. And I think Arshdeep, with his ability to, I think he's figure that Arshdeep is the slightly better boundary hitter than Kuldeep in the format. I think so. I would bat Arshdeep at nine. Not that it really matters, but yeah, Arshdeep, Kuldeep, and Shami to round up the 9, 10, and Jack for him.
Yeah, looks more than formidable, and hopefully, India does field this playing 11 because it looks settled across multiple frontiers as well. And based on this playing 11 that you have selected, who do you think can actually be the X factor for India in
Then
this
for me,
tournament?
Shreyas Iyer. Shreyas Iyer and Hardik Pandya. I think that those are my two X factors for me. I think Shreyas Iyer with the batting in the batting sphere, because I think this format is made for him. He is your best batsman in this format. I think, irrespective of position, I think just what he is able to do in the middle overs and break games open, co- uh, completely dominating the spinners in that phase. It's something a lot of batsmen don't have in world cricket, and certainly in this Indian team, not a lot of batsmen have that ability to be able to strike some ball one and looks very, very convincing while doing it. So I think Shreyas, and then Hardik, because it's the fact that he gives you that balance. He really balances your team at number between can bat between five, six, anywhere between 5 to 7, and he functions as your third pacer in the side. And his bowling has come up leaps and bounds. He looks a much better bowler right now. I think so, which is why I think I would go for Shreyas and Hardik as my X factor players.
Yes, we have registered your, X factors for India in this tournament. And lastly, Abhinav, like just based on this current squad, our entire discussion, it would be unfair if I don't ask you this question: that do you really think India can go all the way and win the Champions Trophy? And do you see in the possibility that this could happen?
I mean, the team does have the tools to do it, and I think if they're able to get the better of, I mean, I don't see what happens against New Zealand if they're able to, especially beat Pakistan. I think that should be enough for India to seal the semi-final spot, and then semi-finals always it's who is able to handle the big pressure moments on that day. Uh, that is what the knockouts do. I mean, who's able to handle the pressure better on that day? I would hope to see India win, but I think at least at this time, I would say semi-finals is definitely it is within India's grasp. I mean, it should not be. It's not. It should not be hard enough to for India to make it to the semi-final, and then based on how they managed to hold their end of the bargain up in the semis, their chances for the final gets decided.
Yeah, and I think we'll all keep our fingers crossed and cheer for Team India through this tournament. A lot to look forward to, and Champions Trophy is coming after so many years. So yeah, I hope the excitement is there, amongst all the fans, and they don't treat it like a boring format, and they don't end up watching the tournament. But yeah, enough. That pretty much does conclude our discussion as well. First things first, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I know you have a very busy schedule, but it's almost like the stars aligned for us to, kind of have this collaboration. A lot of people, I think your like fans and all have pretty much come here as well.
I don't know whether fans or not, but yeah, I mean, I consider them. I mean, a lot of them are my friends. So yeah, I mean, so yeah, thank you guys. I think it was I mean, to all the people who chimed in the comments. I mean, be it trying to appreciate, be it my colleagues at office or the ones that I know from my Twitter, from all the Twitter spaces that I have been able to do. I mean, thank you for joining in, and firstly, thank you for having me over. I think it really was a very nice, fun conversation for me to try and distract myself uh, from provide myself a valuable distraction from my day job. I mean, it's always nice to be able to talk about cricket with somebody learned as you, and thankfully again we've been able to do a podcast together in Raipur, and hopefully the next time we manage to do it, I think hopefully I'll be in some other city at that time. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, I mean, waiting to uh, join you again very soon. And yeah, to everyone, I mean, please subscribe on YouTube, and please subscribe to Never on the Back Foot on YouTube as well as on Insta and whichever social media platform you guys prefer. But yeah, I mean, please do subscribe. Please go ahead subscribe. Then. Thanks a lot, Neha. It was a pleasure joining you.
Likewise, Abhinav. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Thank you, guys.